Hello, this is J-Road of License Plate Jacket Radio, and today I'm doing a bit for SourcefedNerd.com. This is my review of Trading Places. I just have to say, one of my personal favorite movies of all time, also one of my best friend's favorite movies of all time. First time I saw this movie, I didn't actually know what it was. I only saw like a little bit of the end and thought that was funny, and then eventually a few years passed by and I saw it and I'm like, this movie's amazing. It stars Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy, and they make the most wonderful, hilarious duo. Now it starts off, typical 80s movie, machismo, city intro. Not that bad, but it is pretty good. And this movie definitely makes me think of modern times. It has a timeless feel, even though there's a lot of things in it that are pretty dated. But, like, it does beg the question of income inequality, the unfairness of the 1%, money, and, racism, America. A lot of things that can still be related to today. And here are just some of my thoughts on that. I love the opening because Dan Aykroyd cuddles a pillow just like I do when I sleep, which, embarrassingly, I have to have a pillow to cuddle or I can't sleep. Go ahead and mock me, but I dare you to not find someone who says, oh, sometimes I sleep with a pillow like this because it may help. If you say you don't, there is something wrong with you. Possibly. And I really love that the opening sequence where Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd run into each other. Like, it's just a bumbling mistake, and then they think that the black guy's in the wrong. And I thought that was kind of crappy. And then what really was weird was the cop car pulled up the wrong way. Like, you see the cop car, it's on this side, it's on, like, this side of the building. So the building is going this way. And it's on this side, and they're in walking distance. Eddie Murphy runs inside, and straight up, hilarity ensues. He's running away from the cops because he's pretending to be homeless, veteran, yada yada yada, typical thing. They think he's trying to mug Dan Aykroyd, which he isn't. He just bumps into him. Then, freaking flies inside. Eddie Murphy's hilarious. So the cop car then pulls up from this side, which I didn't quite maybe it was just a weird shot edit, but yeah, I thought that was kind of strange. And then, oh goodness, there was this scene with Dan Aykroyd and his beloved beauty that is supposed to be his betrothed, and they have some of the worst sexy talk I have ever heard. I'm not gonna claim to be the connoisseur of sexy talk, because some of mine is pretty cheesy, but like, who talks about stocks when they're like, really, no one talks about stocks before they're about to boil. If you talk about stocks before you're boiling, you must be either a math major or something really strange. Oh, and yes, I could insert the Family Guy Jewish orgasm clip, but no, I'm not going to. When he's in jail, when Dak Aykroyd's in jail, when Eddie Murphy's in jail, this scene is funny. Like, the criminals with them have like this amazing vocab, and I've never been in jail. I've only been in a holding cell once, and that was a case of mistaken identity because someone mistook me and they put me in a holding cell. And you know what I did? I literally corrected the grammar and the spelling on the graffiti. It annoyed me that much. Like, you're not supposed to be in jail when you're correcting the Like, I probably would have gotten raped if I'd gone to jail. Like, literally, it bothered me that no one used apostrophes, and then I was like censoring words that I thought were inappropriate. And like, when they pulled me out of the cell, they finally got the real guy. It was so stupid. But they're like, what were you doing? Why were you graffitiing so much? I'm like, I wasn't graffitiing. I was correcting the grammar. And the cop just looks at me and he's like, what? Why? Because bad grammar shows bad society. And he's just like, yeah, this kid don't belong here. Anyways, on that little thing. So yeah, that was a total misunderstanding a long time ago. I think the weird part is when Eddie Murphy gets out of jail, there's this almost like creepy kidnapping scene, and like he asks straight up if these guys are gay, and it just you can definitely tell this is an older piece. And then the party scene. Oh my goodness. When Eddie Murphy's like, I got money, I'm gonna blow it. Then he realizes, oh yeah, I have to have responsibilities now. And the thing that I really loved about the party scene when I was younger was boobies. I'll admit it. That's one of the greatest parts about this movie is just boobies. I can see why they called the cable box the old boob tube back in the day. These aren't just tits. These are 80s tits. which is a clear, which should have its own category of strange and wonderfulness. Like they're they're just there. Okay, I don't know how to explain it other than that. And and then like the scene where Eddie Murphy he walks into and just goes straight up like goes into work, normal thing, and these old guys are explaining to them what he does, and he just looks at them and like they explain or bacon like you would find in a bacon's lettuce and tomato sandwich, and then he just looks at the camera like seriously these old fucks are saying that to me. I just couldn't stop laughing at that. It was just hilarious to me. I don't know why. Like he just gives him this look, and I can't even. He's just like it's Eddie Murphy. And then Winthrow gets picked up by a prostitute, which I find funny. I don't know why that one was pretty great. He straight up is like okay, and then I think she's cuter with shorter hair. I don't care what you think. Girls with short hair are cute. I have a thing for short hair and pigtails, and I don't know why. It's those two things. But yeah, I thought she was cuter with short hair. Like I don't know. Maybe that's just me. And goodness, then they go to the restaurant and they have one of the worst jokes I have ever heard. A snail buys a car and he says paint an S on it and paint an S over here and blah 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 blah. Rich white people jokes. And so everyone can watch it drive and go, look at that S car go. And I was like, wow, poor jokes. Oh, and then Winthrow becomes a freaking mugger Santa, like crooked Santa, and I've never laughed harder. Santa pulls a gun on a bitch. He's like, I caught him, and he's just like, I'm gonna cap some bitches as Santa Claus. I knew there was a dark side to the Salvation Army. I knew it. This movie proved it for me. And seriously, I just thought that was funny. And the bathroom scene where Eddie Murphy like just tosses a joint in his mouth. I don't know. I just thought that was pretty. I thought it was funny. Like it's a cheap gag, but it's pretty funny. Yeah. And last thing I have to say. Well, some of the more thing like last thing about that was just who puts a joint in their mouth? Like I can understand. Like why doesn't he put it out with his fingers first and then put it in his mouth? But whatever. Then there's this whole gag where Dan Aykroyd Winthrop was stealing food, so he's just on this bus and he's mowing down on his fish through the Santa beard. It's disgusting, and there's this woman who just gives him this utter look of pure loathing and disgust, and I've never seen anything funnier in my life. Like just her face. I want to know this woman's story. She, yeah. Then everything bad happens to Winthrop. I think that God just hates him, or just the writers of the story. And he tries to cap himself, and then he throws the gun and it goes off, like which is really obscene when you really think about it. He tries killing himself, and then it doesn't, and then it has the most obnoxious cartoon sound effect. I have shot firearms before, like proper safety and handling and all that jive. And that's good stuff to learn. But guns do not make a freaking cartoon sound. No, they make a very loud, distinctive noise. You hear gunshots, and if you hear enough of them, you can start telling distinctions between them, because there's a very clear difference between a 22 and a 12 gauge. You can tell that. Like, but no gun I've ever heard makes like a cartoony sound effect that they had. Ah, yeah. And no one investigates the guy who's securing this stuff, and yet there's such clear bribery. Like, oh, this guy has somehow acquired like 100 grand in the past few weeks. No one knows where he got it, even though he's the security guy for one of our biggest assets in America. Yeah, and then well, and then who the hell transports a gorilla in a freaking train? Like, other than, I could see Russell Noodle Murdoch and 2D being on a train. Yes, that's a Gorillaz reference. But really, I don't understand. And why is everyone in costumes? Like, is New Year's that big of a thing? I know, like, back in the day they might have had the early, when I remember New Year's, they had the glasses and the party hats, but I've never gotten in like full regalia costume over it. And the train scene, I don't care. It's really politically incorrect and racist and just god awful, but it is funny. It's Eddie Murphy at his best, and Dan Aykroyd in blackface. I don't know why, it makes me giggle. Just like Pee Wee Herman telling me about crack makes me giggle. Like, and he's not even good blackface, or I shouldn't say, there's no good blackface. Blackface is, and I've had a moral debate about this, whether Asian people can wear blackface and just or is whiteface racist, and a lot of other stupid shit. But like, I don't know. I find that scene hilarious and offensive. I can't. It's a very mixed feed for me. Growing up with a mostly African American, or well, I'll just call them black because they're my family. Like, it just, I don't know. Yeah. And the Irish priest. I don't care how generically stereotyped that is. It was amazing. I just love his act. And I'm from Switzerland or Sweden. Was it Sweden or Switzerland? I just watched the movie. I can't remember because I was too busy staring at her boobs. And then gorilla rape happens. Of course, no movie is complete without a guy being tied up, put in a gorilla suit, and then being molested by another gorilla. And there's these two hokey dudes who are supposed to be the gorilla caretaker, and he's like, oh, they're getting pretty horny. Like, it's just the weirdest line. I don't know how to say it. Just, you have to watch it. And the kiss scene and the beautiful, stunning view of the Twin Towers, the World Trade Center. I have to say, that was a great shot. It brings you back to America. Don't forget 9/11. Like, but don't persecute anyone of the Islamic faith over it. I think that's a really big misconception. Tragedies happen. We overcome them. We're the human race. I love the line in Boondock Saints Boondock Saints 2, when they're having like that dream sequence with Rocco again. He's like, I stood with you and it was an honor. Look at this. Oh, when buildings fall, we build them right back the fuck up again. You know why? Because it's in our fucking DNA. And that line always gets me. I digress. Back to Trading Places. They kiss. They go to the thing. They do their stuff. They have a happy ending. It ends again once with gorilla rape, and then Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd on a beautiful island in the Caribbean. So all in all, classic. Wonderful movie. Like, this movie probably set the tone for a lot of comedies at the time, and a lot of 80s comedies can be pretty hokey. Not as bad as some of the comedies today. I mean, I'm not a huge comedy fan. I'm more horror, action, sci-fi, fantasy. Okay, I do, and I enjoy a good comedy is a good comedy in its own right. There are some of them that are better than others, but honestly, this one's, it's a moderately good one. It's a classic. It set the tone for the whole business place, oh, what would happen type scenario. Like, this one I think is possibly one of the greatest. It came out of the 80s, generation of awesomeness, and a lot of drawbacks, but it's still pretty good. It holds up. I will give it a 9.5 orange juice out of a 10 orange juice. All right, that's a little generous. I'll give it a 9. It does have its flaws, its moments, but it is a classic, and I do love it. I do love it. It can seem hokey at times, especially with the prostitute and all that, but I still love it. I will stand by my decision to give it a 9 out of 10. So this has been a License Plate Jacket review on License Plate Jacket Radio. I am J Road. I hope you enjoyed this at SourceFed. I am signing off. May Godspeed be with you. Live long and prosper, motherfuckers.